Roger Stone here. Your dollars are losing ground, but gold isn't. American Sovereign Bullion helps you protect your wealth through real, tangible assets. Through their nationwide wholesaler network, you get some of the best pricing on gold and silver delivered straight to your door. Since 1912, the U.S. dollar has lost 97% of its purchasing power. Meanwhile, gold continues to prove its strength. So call 844-272-2428. That's 844-272-2428. Or visit dyingdollar.com to request your free gold and silver guide. That's dyingdollar.com.
Listen, all you New Yorkers. Taxi.
Okay, man, we're looking around.
This is the 77 WABC minicast.
Sunday morning. What is going on around the world? Well, we're privileged this morning to have General Wesley Clark. He was the former NATO Supreme Allied Commander. There's nobody that knows more about NATO than he does. And four-star General, West Point. General Clark, what the heck is going on with NATO? We saved their behind so many times, and it doesn't seem like they appreciate the United States.
I think that's the opposite, John. They do appreciate the United States, and they think that we're part of NATO, and they're wondering where we are. When they hear that we're pulling troops out and so forth, they ask themselves, what could be more important than stabilizing Europe? Why wouldn't you want to deter Russia? Why would you want to pull troops out and redeploy and so forth and give Russia the feeling that, hey, maybe there's an opportunity to strike? So they're asking some serious questions, and we need some good answers.
I understood. And I understand that he was a little bit, the President Trump was a little bit perturbed at, I guess, the German president or premier, and he moved some troops over to Poland because I hear that Russia was amassing their troops around the Polish border.
The fear is really for the Baltic states. So it's not just in Poland, but it's in Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania. And the fear is that the Russians seem to believe that if they say that Russian speakers in these countries, and there are some, are somehow being prejudiced against, then Russia has a right to intervene militarily and take over the country. And that's a pretext for war. We heard exactly the same kind of pretext before the invasion of Ukraine in 2022. It usually is accompanied by some legal action out of the Putin-controlled Duma to sort of put a veil of legality over what they're about to do. And so we've watched this situation over several years, and we've watched the Russians build up their forces there. And, you know, despite the poor results in Ukraine, how do we know that Putin's not thinking, hey, I can get a quick win against these nasty little people in the Baltics?
Well, Putin did say that I think I got a quick win. Why should we give Afghanistan to China and I get nothing? Isn't that what really happened?
Well, you know, Putin is a strategist. He's not a military guy per se, but he's an intelligence spook, and he's a very smart, conniving, capable guy with some great intel assets. So that's why he's focused on the Baltics right now. They were part of Russia during the Tsar's time. They always thirsted for independence. They had some brief independence during the 1930s, and then, of course, at the end of World War II, the Soviet Union reoccupied them. And so since 1991, they've had their independence. They don't want to lose it.
Understood. And give us the pulse of the situation on what you think is going on in Iran and the Strait of Hormuz.
Well, right now it may look like a deadlock, but it's like two people in a vicious arm wrestling match. You never know who's going to give out. Iran's economy's hurting for sure, but they've reopened their missile cities. They can fire. If we do anything to Iran, they attack our friends in the Gulf. Our friends in the Gulf don't want the Iranians to have control of the Strait of Hormuz. That's a tough nut to crack. It could be cracked, but Right now, we seem to be sort of halfway sneaking some boats through, but not enough. Meanwhile, the Iranians are trying to use the negotiations over the Strait of Hormuz to block the Israelis from going after Hezbollah in Lebanon. But at the same time, Hezbollah is not saying, well, if we stop fighting, we'll stop fighting. Hezbollah wants to continue to fight. It's all part of the Iranian strategy. So the president's got a tough role here because it's a tough battlefield, it's a tough negotiation, and then he's also trying to keep the economy from suffering too much. He's done a really good job on, I think, in keeping the stock market up and so forth. But is peace about to break out? Seems unlikely.
Understood. What else would you like to tell the American people on a Sunday morning? You know, we're sitting around in America having our cup of coffee, and there are people out there that are suffering. Whether it's Israel, whether it's Lebanon, whether it's Iran, or I mean, you tell us.
Well, I think from my experience, I've done a lot of work in foreign policy, but what I learned from General Al Haig, when he was NATO commander, and before that, and his work with Henry Kissinger, is that what happens outside our borders has a big impact on the American economy and the strength of the American dollar. And that's fundamentally, we've shaped the world since the 1940s by U.S. security, U.S. armed forces, and the credibility, the stability, the consistency of American foreign policy. And so I know the president wants to make a big transition here. He wants to pull us out of Europe. He wants to focus on the Western Hemisphere. He's trying to cut a deal with China. This is high risk for the American economy because there's nothing more difficult than that kind of a strategic realignment. People look at it, they say, what's going on with the dollar? Maybe we should switch to the Chinese. Maybe the Chinese are more reliable. Maybe we need to go to a gold-backed currency. A lot of these issues that look political and diplomatic come down to being financial and economic. We've been sustained by the flow of petrodollars from the Emirates, from the Saudis, for 50 years. Kuwait, they invest their money. They make a lot of money off oil sales. They invest it in the United States, by and large. If anything were to happen to that, our economy would definitely feel the impact. So I think the American people have to understand that what happens overseas is of immediate consequence here at home.
General Wesley Clark, I want to thank you so much for coming on this Sunday morning and briefing all the American people. Thank you for everything you've done for America and continue to speak out for America. And me and you will catch up again real soon.
Sounds great. Thank you, John.